Hi everyone, good evening. First of all, I'd like to sincerely thank my dear friend Paul and Jeremy for inviting me to give this talk. It's a real pleasure to be a part of this unique event here in this exciting city once again after about 10 years. Okay, today at the first part I'm going to give you some brief information about my architectural adventure from the very beginning until now. Then I'm going to present you 3 projects in a more detailed manner as distinctive examples of our design approach together with the resources, reasons, and the arguments and our understanding of context, which I believe is one of the, let's say, one of our primary components of our work. Okay, speaking about context, on one hand, we all know that we're living in a world which is becoming smaller and smaller day by day, and with the effects of widespread global tendencies, this old sphere is much more flattened now. This is the climate of all that is solid melts into the air, as Marshall Berman borrowed ingeniously, in my opinion, from Karl Marx, the legendary deep thinker and the oracle of the last century. Actually, this is not just an economic phenomenon. This lunatic evolution manipulates every corner of our lives, and it is producing a kind of cosmical epidemic. The world is burning out, and this time the truth melts in the air, like all other solids, and it won't be wrong to consider this situation as an epiphany of neocolonialism. I guess, or I know, I believe that the majority of the audience now is formed by architects or designers today. So a specific question there, or a certain subject could be meaningful to discuss in this very moment. What could be the role of the architecture or the architect in this period within this global context? Okay, I'll get back to this very crucial question soon, but let's go to another era now. And I invite you to Turkey, to a relatively young country founded after a long-standing empire. My parents, who were both architects, established their first office in Ankara, the capital city of the Turkish Republic. And they were entering competitions which were almost the only option for the young architects at that day. Then they won the first prize. They learned that they won the first prize in a beautiful June day in 1963 for Zonguldak Hospital, and that was the same day that I came to this world. Regarding myself, on my teenage years, I was dreaming to become a car racer, but somehow I found myself in the architectural school in Istanbul, and just after my graduation from the University of Mimar Sinan, I went to US in late 80s and worked as a junior architect, just as a rookie, in Washington, D.C., in an office called Metcalf and Associates for about a year. And after an extremely pleasant and fruitful period in Georgetown, I was once again in Istanbul and joined to my parents' office. And as a very brief summary, I can easily say that Arolat Architects was my principal school. But after 7 years of, let's say, hand in glove, I felt that I should graduate from there too. And in 2004, we established EAA together with my partner Gonca. It was really the forming period of Turkey's last generation progress, and we had lots of work at that time. Just after 4 years, we became one of the most prolific offices of the country, with more than 100 architects. But even with this relatively large group, we were always very keen on conserving our ethos and spirit, if you want. And we try so hard not to become a large-scale and toneless corporate office with a lack of soul, let's say. So the name of today's talk is negotiating objections by using the specifics of context. Now, I will briefly try to explain the reasons for this. Actually, this situation is directly related with the question I have tried to bring up before in this world we are in for the moment, and especially at that time. How far can the boundaries of responsibility of an architect be expanded? Okay, in EAA, in our office, we ask this question every day, again and again, in every project we encounter, and we try to turn this situation into an opportunity to question the usual truths, or even accepted realities. For this to happen, I believe that it is necessary to first open a channel of objection in every case, in every subject. Here is where the word objection comes into play. But of course, objection alone does not produce a solution. In each project, it's essential to develop a shared language with the client or commissioning institution. This is where the issue of negotiation becomes significant, shaping the dialogue and design process. In this way, we believe we manage to avoid somehow being influenced by many current and easily consumable architectural trends. And until now, in about 20 years, we designed more than 300 projects in more than 30 different countries. We design at a different scale, like Zorlu Center, nearly 1 million square meters of mixed use as at the heart of Istanbul, or a single family house in Miami. We face various contexts, various urban patterns like Bodrum, London, Albania, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, or Italy. Some other examples, a mosque in Dubai, some projects in Brussels, Oman, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Some hospitality projects, St. Regis Hotel in Istanbul, museums in Moscow, Miami, and an office complex in Dubai. A housing project in Lisbon, a villa in Dubai, various projects in Saudi Arabia, Tatarstan, a competition entry in Budapest, or some airport terminals in various contexts, such as Dalaman, Istanbul, and Cyprus. Through our practice, we have received many architectural awards, such as Aga Khan, Mizvan Derohe Award of European Union, RIBA International Awards, London Design Museum Building of the Year Award, and several winnings at World Architectural Festival as well. We are keen, very keen, on being active always in the academic world with tutorships and lectures. I ran several studios in Europe and in US. Of course, the discussions with other architects with whom we share the studios are very important. For example, a couple of years ago, we ran a studio, as Jeremy mentioned, at Yale School of Architecture, and we were together with well-respected architects in the studio, such as Frank Gehry, Bob Stern, Peter Eisenman, and Elias Zengelis. I'm a chartered member of RIBA, and a couple of years ago, elected as honorary fellow of AIA, American Institute of Architects. In 2014, after 10 years that we established the EAA, although we were quite busy in Istanbul with some very large-scale projects, we opened a second office in London. Since then, we have worked on various projects. We never finished a project in London. And we had to close the office physically due to the pandemic, and recently we are making plans to reopen it. We participate in some invited competitions. This one, for example, was a Modern Art Center in Moscow, and we were supposed to convert an old movie theater named Udarnik, a very special example of constructivist architecture designed by Boris Yofan. We are quite selective when accepting these kind of competitions. However, I believe that somehow continuously competing with other prominent colleagues, prominent groups worldwide, keeps both myself and my team, my colleagues, dynamic. This one was in Qatar, another museum in Doha, a housing in Frankfurt, in Dubai, another museum in Mecca. We won this competition a couple years ago. It was the Museum of Revelation, but still we are waiting for a development. Another winning project in Saudi, an experimental house with highly contextual approach, trying to be a part of a terrain. Some of them are more urban scale, like this one or this one. Another one, this time a touristic destination using the uniqueness of Red Sea. But today, the first project that I'm going to present in a more detailed way is a newly completed museum building in Istanbul. It was shortlisted, in the finals, shortlisted, yes, in the completed projects, completed cultural projects this year in World Architecture Festival. One of the Antalya buildings in Karaköy port, which used to be the main port area of the town, was given to Mimar Sinan University to be converted into Museum of Painting and Sculpture. And the building contains one of the largest exhibition area in the city and holds by far the largest collection of the country with nearly 20,000 artworks. That includes pieces starting from Ottoman time and converting the whole Republican period, covering the whole Republican period together with some very recent one. The building actually is located on the Bosphorus, very near to the Golden Horn, and the site was always an important port and industrial area through the history of the city. This picture is from late 70s, and you see the main port. It served about 50 years, then became the subject of an extensive transformation. And this is the building which was assigned as the new museum. The warehouse buildings were designed by the prominent architect Sedat Eldem in 50s, and I always believe that they somehow had a very important meaning and a specific role in the urban memory of Istanbul. Their distinct architectural character of them, born by their, let's say, form and scale, was separating them from other buildings, from surroundings. On the other hand, the exposed structural grid of the facade was one of the most significant architectural elements. It was the most characteristic feature of Sedat Eldem's architecture as an instrument of interpretation, referring to the repetitive timber structure of traditional Anatolian architecture. You see some example of this architecture on left and an image of the existing building on right. As it's seen here, the building consists of two major parts, the office block in front and the warehouse part at the back. Okay, from the very beginning of the design process, I defended the idea of keeping the main character of the building. I'm using the word defending on purpose because there was a massive pressure coming from various sections of the community. The majority of intelligentsia, including surprisingly members of the Heritage Committee, they somehow was trying to convince me to get rid of this building because they found them heavy and ugly. However, I'm counting on the phenomenon of superimposition for the growing towns in the context of urban memory. And I strongly believe that cities become physically and socially enriched as they accumulate structural layers from different periods. I can briefly say that it was a quite widespread discussion in the community, not only the intelligentsia, but the politicians, the press, and even man in the street was somehow a part of this atmosphere, and the majority of them were not positive about the building's renovation and reuse. Okay, this story brings me back to an unforgettable day in a different geography. It was a heavenly day in London, and I was in a boat trip on the Thames. The unique fluxural, let's say, embedded urban texture was getting nicer and nicer while I was admiring the stunning multi-layerness of the city. Somewhat later, I saw the National Theatre right in front of me, one of my favorites. I was captivated one more time. I mean, observing the volumetric composition of this legendary structure from that angle was a great privilege. I was a big fan of this work of art since the first years of my architectural studies, and somehow strolling through my memories, I couldn't take my eyes off the building. Just then, I heard our guide stating very self-confidentially, "Ladies and gentlemen, now you see just in front of you the Royal National Theatre, one of the ugliest buildings of the town." I was in a deep shock and I attempted to say something. I looked around for a while, watched the happy faces of the tourists, and wanted to object but didn't say a word, and I gave up. So you never know, not only in Istanbul, but modern or let's say brutalist architecture can suffer everywhere, even in London. The National Theatre is not the only example of this ungratefulness, and it's clear that Balfron Tower or Robin Hood Gardens of Smithsonian's haven't been particularly well loved by most of the Londoners. Their stark concrete exteriors and association with social housing have made them symbols of a controversial architectural era that many find unattractive. Okay, let's come back to Turkey now, to our subject. Despite all opposing views, we decided to renovate the building by keeping their main character, but also by adding some new layers of current needs and ambitions. Let me explain both the intellectual and the physical framework of our approach. In the beginning of the design process, as a prime decision, we kept the reinforced concrete structure as it is, while the walls and slabs are removed in order to obtain a kind of three-dimensional and totally naked structural grid, which will house the container galleries of the new museum. The floor slabs of the office block are removed, and this new space acts as the entrance and circulation core of the museum. We somehow reconstructed the facade, or let's say the skin, the exterior skin, as an interpretation of Eldem architecture. Now, when you look from the street, the building seems like it hasn't changed at all. And here we see the same area from inside. Another angle, the main atrium of the entrance area, and the new circulation core. Okay, on the other hand, I believe that a museum should not be a sealed box which contains only artworks, but much more than this. It should be permeable, accessible, and enrich the public life around it. So the ground floor is designed as a continuation of the public space, while the art galleries are arranged in the upper floors. You see the ground floor organization. The yellowish part is a kind of public passage connecting people from the main street to the seaside. And through this special hall, people can use the cafe, watch the restoration going on there, various workshop rooms, and public facilities. And this is how we see it when there is some exhibition in the same area. As we go up, the galleries start to appear, and they are accessed through the main circulation shaft. And the visitors can experience the fluid space quality of the building. And they can also enjoy the city view as they walk from one gallery to the other. The expanding areas along this route, along this circulation area, are also being used for some sculpture exhibitions. And this is what the interior gallery space look like. Another one. And children have become some of the museum's most loyal visitors, and that makes me very happy. In this context, as a part of museum social programs, we were keen about creating an art academy for children, and it was designed in a special section of the building, and now it's completed. I'm very happy about that. This is the vertical void through the floors, designed as a courtyard for temporary exhibitions just in the at the heart of the building. And you can see the surface imperfections of the beams left by existing structural grid, and we are somehow criticized to leave them as they are. But this was about making the traces of time visible. This is the temporary exhibition gallery, this gallery, which is located at the top portion of this area to provide necessary floor heights and flexibility for contemporary art. Another view from the same hall. Actually, this space, with its dynamic and fluid nature, also hosts various events and has become one of the city's key gathering spots. We are at the top floor now, another exhibition and gathering space, together with an art library. And this space also used as a unique performance venue for the university, conservatory students, and young musicians. So I believe that the end result is not another yelling and shouting iconic new museum building like many others there. From the other side, you see the containers as exhibition halls embedded into the existing structural grid. They are gray and natural and industrial looking in daytime, and lighted in color as the symbol of the port at nighttime. However, while we have been working hard to respect the urban memory, a new tender came into the agenda of the country, and the Galata Port, a mixed-use development, was built and opened in 2021 together with the new cruise terminal, unfortunately by demolishing all the remaining warehouse buildings. And finally, the last one that used to be Istanbul Modern is now replaced by a Renzo Piano building. And this last picture shows the current existing of Istanbul Painting and Sculpture Museum in its context. And to speak honestly, we are very happy and kind of proud to have insisted of keeping a prominent example of modern Turkish architecture as a trace of the past and in respect to the urban memory of the city. Okay, the second project is the Museum Hotel Antakya, located in a city at the southeast part of Turkey. During the early Roman period, Antakya, or Antioch with its ancient name, was the third largest city in the world, and it's a cradle of civilization. A local entrepreneur wanted to build a hotel on his own land, which is located at the center of the town, near to the famous St. Pierre Church. He made a deal with an international brand and started the construction according to a conventional 400-room hotel brief with his former architect's project. But life was not easy there. Wherever they were excavating, they were somehow encountering some ruins, some architectural remains. Everybody was in trouble. The architect, technical consultants from different disciplines, including one of the most prominent teams of archaeologists, and they were all hoping to discover a considerable empty and convenient space to locate the hotel. But after 7 months of hard work, the team faced the reality. The nearly 20,000 square meter land was full of ruins, and this was extremely disappointed for the landowner. This is the guy you can imagine, easily notice. He broke up with his architect, blaming him for not being sensitive enough about what was happening there. And he was somehow at the last exit and feeling a kind of helpless. This was beginning of a long and challenging story for us, for EAA, starting with an urgent call by a professor who was already in the scientific team, and then comes the process of objections once again and negotiations. And this picture is from 2010, from my first visit to the site. The scene, believe me, was really incredible, and tons of layers everywhere, a Roman bath, traces of different buildings, probably a big temple, and a bunch of incredibly bright mosaics. One of them, a giant size, more than 1,000 square meters, the biggest in situ mosaic in the world, and some others with beautiful colors and patterns. The landowner was looking to my eyes, hoping to see a ray of hope, but I didn't want to be tricky, and very briefly I said he better forget about this hotel project there, looking for a miraculous solution from me. He was extremely disappointed. It was getting late, and they took me for a dinner. We tasted local wine, talked about the magical situation of this specific land and the impossibility of building something there. But the next day, I woke up early in the morning and went directly to the site and watched every corner hours and hours, then visited the town one more time. And after some long and critical discussions with archaeologists, some pictures appeared on my mind, and I told the owner that I can work for a concept design, saying that he should be ready for some very tough times ahead of us. He smiled at me and said that he is ready for all, and the next process was really challenging in order to deal with this unique situation, and with an aim of a very sensitive archaeological conservation. We were set into a very tough route of design, let's say, and bureaucracy at the same time. Let's see quickly how we developed the design. The plot has a rectangular shape. It's about 100 to 200 meters. And the findings were clearly visible after a very deliberate archaeological excavation. Nearly the whole site was covered with layers of ruins. With some exceptions, fortunately. Yes, something was discovered during the process of design, just saved our lives. You see the picture on the left, this is from 1910. And you see the creek with yellow dotted line coming down from the mountain towards the city. And we discovered that the old river used to run through the site, and its bed was changed formerly to be aligned with the new road. And apparently there were no finding along this old bed, and this fact was bringing a unique opportunity for the project. On the borders of the plot with no findings and along the old river, this old river course, there was enough ground for a series of columns as the main structural elements. An almost 25-meter deep pilotis was designed to carry the huge roof, which will protect the ruins and at the same time accommodate an important part of the building program, let's say, which normally is located on the ground floor. Ballroom, restaurant, spa, and even a roof garden with a swimming pool, like here in this hotel. We suggested to create another level of structure, a lighter and permeable one which will hold the rooms, and they will be stacked on 3 floors just like prefabricated containers and connect to each other with detached bridges. In addition to the facilities located at the entrance level of the hotel, an open-air museum route with an indoor exhibition area was included in the program, and that subject was an important part of our negotiation this time with the client. These drawings are showing clearly the relationship between public and private zones. I believe that dealing with this tension, public and private tension, is among the most alluring challenges of today's architecture. It was like an utopian fantasy for some of us, maybe even for me also, but it came true. And the rooms which have been produced off-site came to the land on top of some giant-sized tracks, as you can see here, completely different than the conventional building techniques. And it was quite new for this area as well. I mean, people were like watching this event. They were all in the street to see what's going on there. You see here the ground floor level, and the typical room floor below, quite fragmented, allowing unexpected visual perspectives. And this section shows the lower level circulation of the museum, which is totally open to public and separated from the hotel part. Just a quick recap of what we tried to do. This was the land after the drillings and 66 columns located at very few places without ruins. The museum level with the outdoor exhibition box and steel beams creating a visibly permeable level, and the rooms, as you saw, coming to be located at the hotel levels, and the main circulation path of the roof. This one is mimicking the direction of the old river while connecting some public areas through small courtyards. Okay, after 10 years of struggle, the hotel and the museum have opened their doors. Instead of 400-room expectation of the owner, this was a part of the negotiation, sorry. We were able to fit the half of this. It was another crucial example of objection and negotiation, in my opinion. I think this was one of the most challenging process of my architectural career, and the opening was like a very unexpected moment for me. Some shots from the interior space, different levels of circulation paths, the museum parkour and the circulation of the hotel on top of each other, and the path reaching the interior part of the public museum. The overall planning strategy allows somehow a considerably permeable and highly fluid space perception. These are from the rooms level. The visibility between the layers was one of the main goals of our design. The hotel lobby and this famous mosaic, the giant-size mosaic. Another angle, you see the main restaurant of the hotel there, enlightened, and the huge mosaic. Some exterior shots, the building and the mountain in an afternoon and at the evening. Okay, the New York Times published a list for places to go in 2020, and this complex was among the 52 places to see in the world at that time, but they were not aware of the pandemic at that time. And unfortunately, no one was expecting the catastrophe. The most destructive earthquake in the last 80 years happened in February 2023. This is one of the main arteries of the town where the museum hotel is located. The disaster hit and erased the city from the map. Two aerial views from the same area before and after the earthquake. This time, the same New York Times put the town on the front page with a totally opposite sense. The museum hotel is still there, nearly without any major damage, and opened once again a couple of weeks ago. Now we work for Antakya, for this unique city once again. We started with a group of architects friends. We started a civil and independent platform with volunteers from all around the world. urban planners, architects, engineers, sociologists, economists, lawyers, doctors, strategists, artists, pedagogues, and many experts from different disciplines. One of them is here together with us, my dear friend Murat Tabanlıoğlu. And we visit the city regularly and try to follow the developments. It's a long subject to talk about, but I strongly believe that a similar question is behind this enthusiasm now. What could be the role of the architecture or the architect in the spirit within this context? Okay, now we are in Istanbul for the last project. A couple of years ago, a foundation called Sancaklar got in touch with our office about a project for a new mosque. And to speak honestly, as a prejudgment, let's say, I thought they were looking for a replica of an Ottoman one. Because in Turkey, even today, when you design a new mosque, the first thing that you have to face, let's say, is the figurative burdens of classical Ottoman mosque as a weird anachronism. I felt that I should object this time. One more, the word objection comes to the table. And I told them immediately that I'm not that kind of architect. I cannot do this kind of replicas. And to speak honestly, this first meeting was finished in a very bad way. On the other hand, I'm a big fan of Ottoman architecture, Ottoman mosques, and find them extremely beautiful. But today, I mean, after about half a millennium, let's say, even though all the construction techniques are totally renewed, I find this expectation nearly, quite pathetic. It's an issue that we face every day, and we are somehow accustomed to see brand new replicas or even caricatures of this Ottoman mosque everywhere in the country. Here on the left, for example, you see the original Selimiye Mosque from 16th century, one of the masterpieces of architect Sinan that Jeremy mentioned recently. This is in Edirne. And on the right, the brand new Ataşehir Mosque in Istanbul, built in 2010 as a clumsy replica of its original. A few days after, the head of the foundation called once again and came to the office with this picture. This was showing the location, and at that time I thought that he talked with some of my friends to affect me, and then he came with this picture. I was extremely impressed by the untouched aura of the valley, and additionally he said that they were this time ready to give me a realm of freedom. At that time I realized that I could postpone my objection maybe a bit and try to find a way to negotiate, and I somehow accepted the project. And in the beginning of design process, as we do always, we went back to the roots, to antiquity, in order to find a way of radicalization. We saw that we understood once more that masjid simply means a place for praying and does not dictate any form. It has to be clean, and that's the only condition. And we realize one more time that there is any formal definition for a mosque in Quran or in any other serious source. So instead of searching for a new and extravagant form, we try to reach the essence. This is the essence of ritual of praying. On the other hand, we realize that due to the current intense pressure of global capitalism, Islamic architecture is passing through a very dangerous period. A very good example of such contamination is Mecca, and where the Kaaba is, as we all know, the most sacred site in Islam. It became the center of tourism for the moment, and the nobleness, or let's say humility or humbleness or let's say unpretentiousness does not live here anymore. Take Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi as another example. I gave this example when I was doing the presentation yesterday for another project. This is one of the latest landmarks of Islamic architecture, which became very famous for having the, biggest carpet in the world or the most bombastic chandelier. We have lots of examples like this. Okay, let's go back to our land now. Sancaklar Mosque is located at the outskirts of Istanbul, and the land has a lovely view overlooking the lake. And this section of the land is showing the mild slope. We thought we could play with topography a little bit, and let's say without spoiling this lovely field, but somehow gently manipulating the ground, and we saw that we could turn the upper part into a courtyard with a view. By placing the main praying space below, we aim for the building to disappear in the slope and become a part of the place. And with the help of a simple slit, we got natural light into the main hall below. As you can see on the left-hand side, one of our first sketches. Here you see the section of the main praying hall, and the photograph just in the day that they took off all the scaffolding from inside, and the light came and somehow was kind of a decoration of the space, and I was very much enthusiastic at that moment. And this is the site plan showing the general layout of the land with neighbors, mainly gated communities. Now it's a bit changed, it's a bit more dense. But I'm very lucky, I was feeling very lucky because this road is separating all these gated communities from this area. Now, while approaching the land, we almost see nothing but then a courtyard enclosed by horizontal walls and the vertical mass, which is the minaret, actually, and it signifies the place. First steps to the other courtyard, upper courtyard, and you see the funeral area. This is from the opposite angle during the night. The cascades following the natural slope turn into stairs. And this is the lower level where you can find the entrances of the main hall, the ablution rooms, library, and the small tea corner. Natural materials as local stone and timber, as we use in most of our projects, together with water that time. Okay, like the old Islamic Ottoman complexes, this is a place for praying as well as gathering. This is very important in this kind of projects, using not only the indoor but outdoor areas. Like this is a kind of outdoor, let's say, meditation space maybe. Of course, sometimes different users could enjoy the place. I'm very happy about that. This is a rural area, lots of dogs and lots of different beings are coming there. This is a picture showing left-hand side the Imam's house entrance, right-hand side the tea house, and the main building. This is the lower ground level. You can see that it's a very simple planimetric approach. You see the women's entrance at the left-hand side and the main men entrance at right, together with other service facilities. And these are the entrances of the main hall and the ablution rooms from the outside. And now we are inside. As you see, the materials are like minimized somehow. You see the mimbar, mihrab, And the natural light, washing the Qibla wall, reflects all kind of colors during the day. In my opinion, is the main decoration of the space, together with this wow letter done by Mehmet Özçay. He's a very special calligrapher, very well known in Turkey and in the region as well. Unlike the conventional mosques, here women can pray at the forefront. And this was one of the, let's say, I have to confess that this was one of the most challenging issues of the negotiation process for me. Because, none of the mosques are like this. Whenever you go to a mosque in Turkey or maybe in Saudi Arabia as well, or in the region, always women are back and then you don't see them. They are far away from the main attraction, but this is very different. Unlike the conventional mosque here, women can pray at the forefront, and this was one of the most challenging things of the process. Especially on Fridays, the mosque is full, and I'm very happy about the embracement of the community. To say the truth, I was not sure about that. As architects, we always, let's say, dream. Without dreaming, we cannot do anything. But at the end of the day, a building can be published in a very prominent magazine or can have lots of awards, but if the building is not used in a proper way, I don't believe that it's a success. So I'm very happy about the embracement of the community. And for good and all, I believe that this building, this very small building, opened the door slightly and turned at least a new and modest light on in the Islamic architecture. A modest light for maybe a very small part of the world, and the world which is losing the sense of truth day by day. And I'm going to ask the same question one more time, if you don't mind. What could be the role of the architecture or the architect in this period within this global context? So until now, in EAA, in Istanbul or in London or in New York, sometimes, nothing so different. We are facing this situation, this weird situation, just frontally. And even in this atmosphere, which is quite weird and uncanny, let's say, instead of being affirmative, or let's say a kind of current systems agent, let's say without questioning what's going on, we believe that a producing architect should take a position and undertake a more opponent role. So once again, I would like to emphasize the importance of objections and the negotiations. Coming to the end, let me read you a quotation from the Quran. I'm not a good believer, I have to confess. I'm not an expert. And there was some rumors in Turkey because I did this mosque and I'm not a believer. Some people in the community was not very happy about this situation. But even if I'm not an expert, this part is my favorite. This is from the Quran. Don't walk upon the earth bragging. You can never cleave the earth, nor can you reach up to the mountains. Thank you for listening.
Well, we have a few minutes to talk before Paul will return with the announcement. So, Emre, would you like to come and sit?
Yeah, sure.
We can have a chat. Well, I think the work is absolutely ravishing and fascinating, and I think you find a balance between a contemporary idiom of architecture while respecting traditions, and I think that came across very clearly in the mosque. Mm-hmm. And I think in the museum, it's less obvious, but you're still working there with the old frame, which is
Sure.
retained. And, you know, so you're still working with the fabric of the city as it existed when you found it. And I think this is a fascinating way. Do you think it's something that is recognized in Turkey as part of a cultural condition? Or do you feel that you're plowing your own furrow, as it, you're taking your own route?
Of course, in Turkey, like in many other countries, this kind of values, I mean, tradition, culture, especially for the new generations, they are more and more less important, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, of course, I'm not talking about everyone, every young architect, but of course they are somehow like less important than our younger times. But I believe that the value is there. And then especially a country like Turkey should be very keen about somehow conserving this cultural important elements.
Yeah.
And architecture is a very important instrument to do this. I mean, you can take a role in the. We are now getting older, and then there's a very talented young generation of architects in Turkey, and we have to count on them about having this kind of opponent role, because I mean there are lots of going on in Turkey economically, politically. We have lots of problems. I mean, the country is becoming more and more less democratic. But I mean, I have lots of hope when I see some new and brilliant project of young architects in the country. And I believe that the culture, the value of culture is a part of their work.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you say the country is facing all sorts of political challenges.
That's right.
That's quite often an inducement to art, but it makes architecture very difficult.
Yes.
I think that's
yes.
the problem, because architecture inevitably has a public role. And
yes, but it's a potential as well.
Yes.
I mean, to say something. I mean, to make a statement.
Yeah.
I mean, especially these kind of days are very important, and I believe that young generation should somehow use it and then say their words. I mean, this is very important.
Yes.
Of course, we are doing this as well.
Yeah. No, well, I think that's it. I see Paul has arrived, and I'm sure he'll be itching to hear the announcements. But Emre, thank you very much for a wonderful lecture and for showing us your great.
Thank you. Thanks.